It all begins when a beautiful, long-awaited day has arrived in Brijelt, the capital of the Kingdom of Anan, a wedding day. The bride is very concerned from the morning to make sure that everything goes perfectly, nobody messes up anything, and that everyone is happy. She could have been quietly enjoying the day, waiting for the ceremony, but she's running all over the mansion and just causing havoc. The staff is doing a good job, but she doesn't trust them and starts picking on little things and monitoring even their moods. The girl noticed the veil was too long and only now realized that if someone stepped on it, it could fall down. Even though there's plenty of time and the helpers have time to do everything, the mistress makes a fuss and makes things worse. Rizel gets the worst of it. This nice lady does everything she can, even waking up before everyone else, but no one notices. All she does is run around the mansion trying to please, and in general, whatever she does is wrong. There's a reason for that, but more on that later. Rizel is oppressed every day by the thought that she is out of place and could be far above the status of all of them put together. Her life used to be very different, but at one point, everything turned upside down, and she became the laughingstock of the rest of the world, and there's nothing she can do about it. Has to hem other people's dresses, endure neglect, and be among those who want to finish and finally ruin her life. And meanwhile, Rizel put that tiara on for a moment and almost cried. It was to belong to her as much as anything the bride now owned. This tiara, it was specially commissioned by her mom many years ago. It was a time when she was happy and very much in love with her life. Her mother wanted so much to give her daughter something that would stay with her all her life that she asked her to make this beautiful thing, which was to emphasize her gorgeous hair, the color of the night sky, and her eyes the color of cherry petals. She dreamed of seeing her in this tiara at her wedding with the Marquis, but unfortunately she did not live to see it. A woman fell ill with a serious illness. The girl was left alone at the age of 8 with nothing. She remembered this day forever, because from that moment on, her life began to lose meaning every day. Father's new wife, Gebi, and her relatives took away all lands, money, and even clothes, leaving nothing to. Habi's daughter, Ibiska, took away the tiara, given to her by her mother, and the marriage contract with the Marquis. Rizel was sent to the small country estate of Neuheltz. It would seem that all was lost. By some miracle, there she was able to find her happiness, and most importantly, love. Not a couple of months later, this man died, and she was left alone again. It was another ordeal she could barely stand, to lose 2 loved ones in a short time. Not everyone can survive that. It was the second best day of her life, after which she didn't want anything, not to live, not to drink, not to eat, much less talk to anyone about it. The girl did not notice how strong she had become, and suddenly she began to think that something had to be done about it, and it could not go on like this any longer. The more she was bored and thought of bad things, the more she wanted to leave this world so she wouldn't have to be tormented. And in the meantime, just as she was beginning to hem the veil, she hears someone approaching this room and about to break through the door. She distinctly heard strong footsteps and realized that given how much bad luck she had in this life, they would definitely come into this very room. And suddenly, he hears imperial speech that is easily distinguishable from the way other people talk. Rizel didn't notice that even though she was trembling with fear, she went to the door and even opened it ajar to see what was going on in there. It turns out imperial knights have broken into the mansion, and the emperor himself is probably around too. It was impossible to believe that they had arrived so quickly all the way to the capital, though she had heard rumors of them settling nearby only yesterday. No one knows what they need, but something tells the girl that if the stepmother has to sacrifice someone, she'll send them to her. Rizel remembered the secret passage for the servants and thought that was where she needed to go. Not many people knew about it, and she could wait there for a while. No sooner had she taken a step than one of the guests already entered the main door. The girl did not recognize whether it was a knight or an emperor. She froze in one place and will not go anywhere for sure. The shape of this man is so frightening that the girl almost faints, and has already managed to accept that as she wanted to go to that world can go right here and now. You can't even see the man's eyes through the metal uniform. You can see that the uniform is good. After all, these are Imperial Knights who should have the best of everything. They enter this room one by one, and at that moment, she was as if she was speechless. It's hard to imagine how a person feels, being surrounded by a dozen of the strongest knights, and without the slightest idea what they are doing here and who they are looking for, and hands already intuitively formed into a fist, although from the outside it looked a little funny. Someone even laughed. She's so scared she's out of control and doesn't realize what she looks like from the outside. That little fist is just a hoot, and if she thinks it's a defense, it's not. For one of them to retreat just a step in her direction, and that would be more than enough, the girl would at least faint or give up right away. And meanwhile, apparently their main man walks in. He holds Marquis by the head, though it's very strange that she didn't even pay attention to it. I don't understand why their chief came into this room, because when only knights were here, one could think that they got mixed up and got lost. But since everyone is here, they are not mistaken, obviously. The girl looked at it and began to pray for only one thing, only that he was alive, though she realizes that it is very unlikely. And then begins the most terrible. Their chief understands the Marquis with one hand, and Rizel began to think of only one thing, only now not to happen what she thought of. To such a thing she is not ready yet. The man pulls out his huge sword, and in a second the Marquis is dead. He falls to the floor, and the girl can't believe her eyes. It seemed to her that it was her turn. She did not even resist and lay down on the floor herself. Her whole life flew before her eyes, and she even wished that they did not waste time and did not have to think about it for a long time. Rizel trembles, afraid to lift her head up, and the mere thought that this could be her last day makes her eyes darken. It even seems to her that if she is simply destroyed, it would be better than being a prisoner of an enemy state. It's scary to imagine what could be waiting for her there. At some point, she gets tired of waiting and wants to make things easier for them. So she picks up her scissors and wants to do something that's scary to even put into words. The girl is crying. She doesn't want to do this. She wants to live. But at the same time, staying in this world and being tormented is too much for her to bear. At the very last moment, when she's already feeling the sharpness of the scissors, the man grabs her arm and stops her from doing it. That means they need her alive, at least for the near future. Meanwhile, Rizel is fighting back. She's already decided to do it and wants to see it through to the end. The main man grabbed her two hands with one of his and asked her to calm down. Those were the last words she expected to hear from him. It's weird. She thought they wouldn't install it and would love to see her do it for them. The guy lifts that translucent fabric off her face, wants to look into her eyes, but he hasn't shown his face. Suddenly, it just so happened that in that crevice where one could barely make out anything, the sun came in and the girl saw those golden eyes. They seem so familiar and at the same time insanely devious. She has no idea what to expect next, and what's the point of them keeping her so safe? The last tear falls from her face. Rizel can't stand it. She closes her eyes and passes out. She has gone through such a surge of emotions in the last 10 minutes. It's no wonder. The guy reacted in time. He managed to catch her, but he didn't call anyone. He decided to stay close by, and after a while, he decided he would only go back with her, then removes his helmet and orders his assistants to prepare the carriage. He will not leave her here, and it is very interesting to know if she was the reason for his arrival. The gentleman asked for a comfortable place for the girl to lie down, and the journey was as comfortable as possible. Thinking back, as soon as she heard their sounds in the hallway, Rizel couldn't even think it could end up like this. He's taken her with him as a prince, which means the best part is coming. Her life will never be the same. The important thing is that things don't get worse, and I already can't wait to see her reaction when she wakes up and finds herself in another state. Meanwhile, everything being ready for departure, They came out to be conducted by the owners of the house, surprisingly saying nothing for the girl and wishing her a good journey. They just didn't take the risk of doing it, and Rizal would probably be fine with it. She's been wanting to leave here for a long time and is unlikely to be upset about it. It had been so long since the girl had rested that even sleeping in a carriage seemed something wonderful, like a heavenly delight. When Rizal awoke, the ruler of the Hartanis Empire had already returned home. The road was unnoticeable, at least to her. Their kingdom has signed a peace treaty with them. Firstly, the kingdom of Anan comes under the control of the Hartanis Empire, and secondly, every year after the harvest festival, the kingdom of Anan undertakes to send envoys to the empire to pay tribute to the. Also, Princess Rizal has gone to the palace unconditionally and will now live with the emperor. Since that moment, a whole month has passed. The girl has settled in quite well. She feels at home and does not regret that she was forced to change the environment. Each day was better than the last. She hadn't felt happy in a long time and remembered what it was like to enjoy life. She happily wakes up every morning, thanks fate for such a gift, and a smile never leaves her face. To tell the truth, as soon as she arrived in the empire, she feared that her time in the carriage would be the last peaceful moment of her life. It's a good thing everything turned out so much better than she thought it would. So much so that now her life can be called the dream life that everyone dreams of. She doesn't have to clean. She has a lot of free time. No one makes fun of her or bullies her. So far, so good. What about the guy who took her? They don't see each other much and they can't talk. He is the very real monarch, William Vindel Hartanis. He was 24 years old when, after the death of the emperor, he was dethroned in a coup organized by his relatives and his aunt and uncle. He barely escaped, and 3 years later, William returned to exact a terrible revenge. The aunt and uncle who had organized the conspiracy were destroyed by an agonizing death that lasted 200 days, yet some say they are alive and imprisoned in a dungeon. Having regained his throne, the guy began to conquer into neighboring countries to strengthen his power, the kingdom of Anan, whose borders were so close to the empire that minor conflicts with them were commonplace. The girl was worried that the ruthless Emperor William might do something to her, but all the while she slept, needed nothing, and ate very well. She didn't even have any responsibilities. Everyone around her cared for her like a princess or a new mistress. The emperor had forgotten that a person like her even existed. Maybe it was for the best, and Rizal was doing quite well without him. She was a little afraid to wait for the meeting, for it might make her life worse. Unlikely, of course, but such thoughts had been there from the first day. It would be a shame to lose so many privileges and find out it was just a pretty picture before she found out what she was really here for. Though she doesn't notice, he often watches her from the window, and when the girl turns in his direction, he hides right away. Also, invites her personal maids into his office to find out what they gave her for breakfast, whether her room is in order, and more. For example, today A had fresh steamed vegetables, white bread, grilled trout with lemon juice, thinly sliced beef, and compote for breakfast. And yesterday, when I saw the roasted corn under cheese with honey, it was very surprised at the beautiful look of the dish. The woman tells absolutely everything, even such trifles. That's what the gentleman asked her to do. It's important for him to know everything and even more. It is not yet known why the emperor shows so much care. It is as if he is trying to make her like everything, and the first thought that comes from his actions, he loves her. Moreover, the guy brings in a doctor to keep a constant eye on her health, even taking her test results to monitor all the vitals. And that's not all. As it turns out, he had planned this day yesterday, had prepared, and had asked his assistant to bring her to his room tonight. He has some plans that the girl has no idea about. Will she really have to pay for all the things she's enjoyed this month? This huge house is so beautiful that every time she comes back here, she admires it as if for the first time. Everything around is shiny and shiny. It smells nice. She doesn't even know where she likes it better. Each room is better than the other, and to better enjoy all this luxury, she even touches the furniture and does it several times a day. It's a paradise for her here. She doesn't even want to remember the way she used to live, where and with whom. Living in such beautiful conditions, everything else doesn't make any sense anymore. Her body and mind are so relaxed that she doesn't even know what could be better. It's hard to think of what the house should be like to make her like it even more. What the food should be like to make it even tastier than what's cooked here. And that goes for everything else. Obviously, you can't erase the past. She'll remember it all her life. Her mom, the banishment from her family. There were some good moments, but unfortunately they are much less. It was all a long time ago. And all that will forever remain in the past, in the thoughts, and nothing can be changed. What she can't forgive most of all is those who let the two people she loves die, her mom and a guy she didn't even get to know. If you look at the pictures, as she remembers him, he looks suspiciously like the emperor. But this is just a guess. It is unlikely that in real life there are such coincidences, especially if the man died long ago. It's just an interesting fact that she's bound to notice sooner or later. Good thing everything's fine now and the bad stuff is over. At the moment, the only thing missing is a loved one by her side. And if by some miracle he comes into her life, there won't even be anything left to dream about. You can't get your mom back, but you can still find someone you love, and maybe he'll find her himself. In the meantime, Riesel had no sooner entered her room than she was found by the maids and told some very interesting news. Tonight, she is going to the emperor's chambers to spend the whole night with him. Also, after dinner, her aides are sure to come over to help her get cleaned up. The girl thought she was just going to be called to lunch, but ended up hearing something she didn't expect. She kind of knows what it means, but at the same time, she's not ready for it. The girl all her life has adhered to the principle that she will only be with the guy she truly loves, and nothing like what the emperor has planned should be there. Before she could even think about it, some girls came up to her and started openly sarcastic. One thought Riesel was the janitor of the library, as she often saw her coming out of there. Another laughed at her hair color, and a third asked why the girl was so unsociable and not happy to see them. They somehow found out about her past and started teasing her as if they were jealous and saw her as a competitor, because there's no other explanation for their behavior. In fact, Riesel isn't even nervous. Compared to those she used to tolerate in the past, these four aristocrats won't even compare to them. They can say anything they like, but they will never hurt her. And meanwhile, some time has passed, and the maids are busily endeavoring to make the lady ready for the coming meeting. They put a moisturizing mask on her hair. It will nourish it, give it shine. And in general, the condition of her hair is important for the event that awaits her, so to speak. The emperor wants to admire her, and the girl should be flawless from head to toe. Everything would be fine, but the maids start to mind their own business and tell that they saw the emperor in the form in which they were able to see something. They did not keep silent and say that Riesel will be satisfied. It sounded very strange. She hadn't asked them about it, and she was afraid to even imagine them discussing the date as soon as she left for his chambers. One of the assistants doesn't see the boundary of what is allowed and starts to tell how once she passed by his room and felt a real fever. This is to say that the emperor is not bad in these matters. Riesel is waiting for her to stop listening to it, because she's sure it won't be like they imagine. Maybe he just wants to have a serious talk about something, and his room has nothing to do with it. Maybe he's just tired of staying in his office. She tries to reassure herself, though she realizes that you don't just invite pretty girls into your room at night. It's more than understandable. The lady had just calmed down and established inner harmony when they began to put on some kind of bandage and told her that it was obligatory to. She will not see anything, and even if she is in his room, the blindfold can only be removed if he asks her to do so. Just in case, the woman even repeated several times that it was strictly forbidden to remove the blindfold. It might sound strange, but those were the orders. It may seem that the girl is frightened and not at all welcoming of all that awaits her, but this is not quite true. Inside, she is looking forward to seeing what he has prepared for her. She has goosebumps and great anticipation. She just knows he's very handsome, realizes he could like her, and if what everyone's warning about happens, she'll be fine with it. The maids did a great job. They found an outfit that barely covers her body. It's semi-transparent and perfect for tonight's event. Meanwhile, the time has passed quickly. She is already in his room. He slowly looks at her from all sides and is even pleasantly surprised. She is much more beautiful than he thought she would be. The emperor could barely contain himself and didn't even know whether it was better to proceed at once or to delay, enjoying every second of it. The gentleman got tired of waiting. He asked her to take off all her excess and turn around to face him. This is very much like some romantic scene from a movie, only in real life. His voice is so rough, but the girl likes it. She doesn't mind feeling weaker and submitting to his authority. And from that moment, the most interesting thing starts. Everything happens as if in a fog. The girl turns around and for the first time sees this man without a helmet. She saw him in the face, and she couldn't believe her eyes. She almost fell off her feet because it couldn't be. Before her stands the Destad, whose doom she has not yet come to terms with. And here he is. But how, it is not clear. It's very interesting to understand the situation. Because if this is really the person she's thinking about, it turns out that the guy knew about it from day one and came to the royal house really for her. She has two mixed thoughts right now. On the one hand, she is absolutely sure that her beloved died a few years ago. But on the other hand, the emperor is his exact copy. There is no difference between them. The girl has no idea how long he's been waiting for this moment, and probably didn't tell her everything at once, just so that rumors and all that would only take a long time to start in her former home. She'd forgotten she was in front of him with almost no clothes on. She had a million questions, and it looked like it was going to be a long night. I wish he'd tell her sooner. Her head is exploding from trying to believe the impossible. Meanwhile, the guy reminded her that he'd asked her to take it all off, and she'd only done half the job. Rysel is a very obedient girl. She threw off her cloak and didn't think about whether she would be ashamed to stand like that or not. She subconsciously began to trust him and was willing to follow any order even with her eyes closed. Words can't describe how hard it is to fight the thought that this man is dead. And even if there is a chance that he could have survived, he would have become her slave long ago. There is no way he can be here. However, there was a feeling that she was right there with him now. Rysel was brooding and didn't notice as he grabbed her hand and began to help her follow his body. He slowly pressed his hand to her stomach, asking her to be gentle and at the same time, not to deny herself anything. It felt so good he wanted something else. The guy whispered very quietly in her ear for her to sit down, and thought that now there should be no need to explain what she should do next. She understood it all herself. His beastly crazy look speaks for itself. He goes to enjoy her to the fullest and isn't shy about asking for something. Surprisingly, the girl does not resist. She obediently follows orders and does not even regret that she agreed to come to him. I guess if it weren't for all those distracting thoughts, things might have been different. But right now, she's confused and doesn't quite know what's going on. If Rysel could only see that exasperated look, she wouldn't be so calm. With every passing minute, the guy is becoming unlike himself. He doesn't know what he wants. He tries not to waste time, but it only makes it worse. He doesn't have time to enjoy himself. He also puts the girl in a very awkward position. She thought that she didn't satisfy him and was getting ready that he was about to come. Really, he just wanted to see her face in front of him again, to hear her breathing and feel how soft her lips were. At the same time, the girl has long since lost control of herself. She has no strength in her legs. She is barely trying to stand on them. The emperor is so enchanted by her that he thinks he won't be able to stop until morning. He wants to touch that tender back forever and finally hear her scream with pleasure to the whole room. It's impossible to believe, but when they met years ago, it didn't come to this, which means Riesel has no idea what's in store for her. She gets overly sharp sensations. With her eyes closed, any sound or touch seems much brighter. Even though the blindfold is a little transparent, it's still hard to see if he likes it or not. Meanwhile, his hands start to go lower and lower. They are so warm that Riesel asked him not to stop. The girl starts breathing heavily and even helps him with words. He liked the way she tries to get a word out and asks her not to be silent anymore. He can very well see her eyes, which are anticipating what's coming next and getting crazier and crazier. A guy likes to feel his dominance over someone so much that he wants to bring her to such a state that she begs him to stop. And afterwards, she can't even get out of bed. He's acting completely confident, which means he's had enough experience over the years. It's good that Riesel doesn't think about it, because it would be a bit of a shame. She likes it so much that he does everything himself. She's totally relaxed, doesn't think about anything, and trusts him completely. If you don't think about the fact that she's enjoying herself a lot right now, looking at Riesel from the outside, it seems like she doesn't like something. She's screaming, clawing at his hands, but that's only at first glance. In fact, she's enjoying herself immensely now and has even asked him to speed up a few times. What she felt could not be conveyed in words. Tears welled up in her eyes, which were filled with harmony and pleasure, and suddenly the blindfold comes off her eyes. The girl sees him in a way that makes him look much better than she had imagined him to be. Now she realized for sure that it was a distad and started thinking about it again. Riesel can't relax anymore. She wants to get dressed and have a serious talk. If a few minutes ago it was only speculation, now she doesn't even doubt it. There can't be two exactly the same person in the whole world. It turns out that the blindfold was necessary for a reason. It is not put on for a romantic atmosphere, but so that the girl could not recognize him. The emperor notices that the blindfold is displaced and begins to get nervous. He asked if she had seen him or not, but she closed her eyes in time and said she hadn't. Strangely enough, the guy believed her words, and he just pulled the bandage tighter, and he calmed down. And she was upset at that point, because she realized that if she had cheated, it would be weird to talk about it and ask how it happened. If one imagines that this man is really who she thinks he is, one wonders why already here, when they can discuss everything at any time, he hides his face, asks to wear some kind of bandages, and even today, treats her as if he had only used her for one evening. They had such pure, sincere love before that if you didn't know it, you'd think they were total strangers to each other. Even though he's the emperor, he could be honest with her and not do this hide-and-seek thing that still doesn't make any sense. Riesel is incapable of thinking with a cold head right now. She's under emotion and forgives him even that, though she shouldn't be. She just sees in front of her that beautiful romantic with whom she was happiest and is sure it will be the same. I'd like to believe that, but something tells me that power changes people, and if he really loved her, at least he wouldn't hide anything. Meanwhile, the guy starts to feel that she is too tense and asks to relax, making it hard for him to continue and getting a bit painful. She claims she's not doing anything, but her body speaks for itself, her muscles contracting, and he feels it on him that very second. At first, the emperor asked not to do that, but he already likes it. It's a new sensation that's much brighter than anything that came before. When suddenly, Riesel screamed and started begging him to stop. It was exactly what he was waiting for, so that was the end of it all. Meanwhile, the next day came, and 3 helpers came to see him from the morning, though he asks not to be awakened at this hour. It's noon, and if he sleeps for half an hour, he'll have a headache all day long, proven by experience. The emperor never received daughters, nieces, or any other female relatives sent to him by aristocrats. When such a thing happened, he did not even come to his room. And when women who dreamed of becoming the monarch's mistresses and being on top were so overwhelmed with anger and shame that they threw furniture, tore up the bed, smashed the whole room, and then spread vile rumors about the night with the emperor, claiming it was the result of a tumultuous fusion. These three maids are the only ones who know the truth. They realize they have to keep their mouths shut if they don't want to get out of a job. You have to watch what they see, hear, and especially what they say. They quietly enter the room without permission, each promising themselves that whatever they see here, no one but them will know about it. The maids noticed a great many red spots on the girl's body, and even began to gossip as to what the gentleman might be doing to her. They realized that it seemed that His Majesty had found the one. It had never happened before. Apparently, it had been a very hot night, and now it was clear why he had asked so insistently not to be woken up. They even allowed themselves to assume that he would have children now. Because they are forbidden to tell others about what they have seen, they can only actively discuss it among themselves, which is what they are doing now. Nothing surprising, for anyone would have done that in their place. The girls calmed down a little and thought it was time to wake up and call the new mistress for breakfast. Riesel has barely opened her eyes and is already a little disgruntled. She hates it when they open the curtains before she wakes up. It's the worst thing that can happen to her at the beginning of the day. She was greeted politely, she did the same, and after a second realized that there were 3 people in front of her, and she didn't even have time to properly cover herself with a blanket. Somehow, the maids had made her feel comfortable with them, so comfortable that the problem was no longer there. She threw on her robe and asked for something to do. Her hair is so disheveled, she needs to get her hair done, and I guess a light makeup would definitely be nice. And she also realized that she felt like she was possessed by something and seemed to be with someone who wasn't in the world. She decided to think about it later. For his friend, some presents, not 1, not 2, and not even 5, began to be brought down to her room. Riesel was asked to close her eyes while coloring, and she didn't notice the other helpers doing it at the same time. The surprises don't end there. They say that if she gets the urge to move into the room, all she has to do is say so. A bit of a surprise, but once she'd chosen a dress for the day, it wasn't half an hour before she was asked to change into this one. She immediately realized what these clothes were, went outside, met the emperor, and he had already prepared something interesting for her. He offers to ride a horse, and if she doesn't know how, he will gladly show her a master class. She allowed herself a slightly awkward question, didn't think about it, and asked how, being a slave in the past, he suddenly knew how to ride a horse. It turns out he had previously been assigned to manage the stables. There he learned very quickly and was riding quite well just a couple months later. The emperor tried to make it sound like he wasn't offended to hear this, though in truth, one could have asked a little differently. So she reminded him of his unpleasant past. Because of this, there was no desire to go out for a long walk. 20 minutes later, Riesel is already home and only now realized how much she had offended him. She didn't feel like going back to her room. She figured she'd never been to the library, and why not see what was interesting there? Only she walked in here. The books have taken a back seat. She's confused about what's going to happen next, why she's here and what the emperor needs her for. He gives different gifts every day. The girl forgot what it was like to need something and got used to such luxury very quickly. She even has to run away from the crowd of servants to be alone and stop accepting countless gifts. She has not even opened half of them because she is afraid that sooner or later it will have to pay for it. Suddenly, she was distracted again by the central library. It's very big and spacious, and it's the only place to hide. Hardly people would think she came here and was interested in literature. Was very quiet and peaceful, but until one moment, when she found out that it turned out she wasn't the only one here. There was an outcry. Why doesn't anyone put the books back after they've read them? That guy was outraged. He loves coming to the library, but there's never anything he needs here. More often than not, the books are in the wrong place. People come in, return them, and put them anywhere, just to say that everything was returned and go back out again. I've never had a guy come in here and find a book where it's supposed to be. I have to go through every shelf and it takes a long time. Riesel thought, why not get to know him? After all, maybe the guy would suggest something interesting to distract herself and immerse herself in some interesting story. She touched his shoulder lightly. He calmed down and asked what was wrong, and is very busy without her, though she realizes it herself. The girl felt very awkward, and as an apology asked if he needed help sorting the books. She just didn't have anything to do and needed to be here for a while. Naturally, since this is a very big problem in his life, and she herself offered her help, there was no way he could refuse. He was surprised at first, and still allowed to do it. If she is so much bored and has no other things to do, such help would definitely not be unnecessary, especially since she asked it so sweetly that, looking at those eyes, it was simply impossible to answer in a different way. He thought it would take at least a few days, but she totally lived up to his expectations fixed in just a few hours. Everything is ready, every book is in its place, in the right order. And he really doesn't seem to have seen anything like this in a long time. The guy's mood even improved. Everything here was so perfect that it was impossible to look away. He appreciated her work like no one else, and thanked her sincerely for it. In fact, Riesel was just as grateful to him. She was just too shy to explain that she was hiding and looking for any case just to waste time. In the end, they became very pleasant to communicate. They decided to get acquainted. She did it first, but for some reason said not her real name, but about that later. And now the most interesting thing begins. She cannot even imagine what she will hear in a few seconds. The new acquaintance introduced himself right after her and said his name, after which the girl did not even immediately realize what he had just said. She thought she'd lost her mind, even asked again. But as it turned out, she'd heard everything exactly right. This man's name is Destad Hartanis. As soon as he said his name and surname and the girl realized that she hadn't heard him, she finally stopped understanding what was going on. She looked at him with those eyes, as if she saw before her a man who was long gone from this world, though so it must be, I suppose. Anyway, the girl isn't surprised by anything anymore, and meanwhile, the guy notices that it's too late and says that if he doesn't drink the tea, he'll faint. He has some sort of addiction to tea, although he calls it a sickness. Starts running away at such a speed that he didn't even offer to have a tea party with her. Riesel didn't have time to ask anything, and decided she would wait for him here tomorrow. Whereas in the case of the emperor, the girl had only guessed who he might be, this man had given the name himself and was also very much like the man she loved. She'll spend all her free time in the library if she has to, because she can't ignore such coincidences. Destad, it is the name of a character of the hero of the tales of the kingdom of Anan. Even for her home kingdom, it is a name very rare among humans. The first Destad she met in her life was a slave who had escaped from his harsh master. It is said no one knew his real name so as not to be caught, so he always presented himself as a Destad, and it's unlikely that there could be two people of that name in the same empire. The girl does not understand why fate throws her such accidents. First she hears the voice of that guy. Here he meets the emperor with his appearance and just met with someone who has the same name. Her stay in this palace was getting bleaker by the day. She never got any rest. Thinking about it was even harder than doing any physical work. I'd rather she had some responsibilities here than go around making things worse for herself with these investigations. Riesel meets some girl. She talked to her and wanted to meet her. Even though there is no time for that, the lady did not refuse and paid attention to her. Daria seemed very nice. She told me that she doesn't like to go out of her way and is crazy about making new acquaintances. Even when people want to get to know her, she always does it first, and thinks that the bigger the social circle, the better. Usually, when people get to know each other, everyone has time to tell something, to share something. But in their case, Riesel doesn't even have time to react to her stories. She has already learned that the girl has 4 brothers and is into growing vegetables, also taught at school, and on top of that, helped the boss with accounting in general, has always been a very busy person and hates lazy people. But unfortunately, as soon as she got here, her life got a lot more boring. And so far, there's nothing she can do about it. Most of the concubines flaunt their family's wealth. Daria is different from them, although she is too talkative. At least she doesn't brag or act like the others. There is even wanted to be friends with her. She is not a bad person, and you can see that she is not wearing a mask. She is who she is and does not try to look better. Few people can talk about their lives so easily and have no problem getting to know each other without any ill intentions. It's like they've known each other for years and now they've met after a long time apart. The time flew by. They had already discussed everything they could. The girl didn't think she would find a friend at the end of the day. Though if it weren't for Daria, she might just walk on by and keep thinking about the same thing. The man who keeps haunting her in the form of other people. And then they came to a very interesting topic. Daria told me in confidence that everyone was talking about it. There is a cold atmosphere around the emperor. All servants are in fear of him, and on the battlefield, he is shunned like a demon. Overall, she just wanted to convey that the emperor is a very intimidating person, and it's best not to mess with him. But if Daria only knew a few things, she just wouldn't be able to believe it. A little uncomfortable to hear such information, Riesel certainly felt his coldness and heard the rough voice, but she never thought it was only a little bit. It's impossible to believe that such a cruel, rumored man could be so gentle with her. Cuddled in bed with him, she felt like she was in paradise and needed nothing more for happiness than his presence beside her. It's as if they're talking about different people, as if there are two emperors in this empire. One has seen one and the other. Back in her room, she has a lot of things to think about. The girl is tired of it, but there's no other way to do it. Until she figures out why there are so many coincidences, she won't even think about anything else. Ascallion, the emperor's brother. It was unclear to her why he had so confidently introduced himself as Destad. She would have liked to ask him about it personally, but he would not be at the palace tomorrow. According to Daria, for which she is very grateful, that guy from the library really likes to tease new people arriving at the palace. Now she knows a little more about him. If you think about it that way, an Ascallion has golden-colored eyes, just like a real Destad, but they don't look alike. The girl doesn't understand anything, because it could be that Destad is the emperor's twin brother, who most likely could have been separated from his family as a child. It's just speculation, because she has no other verifiable information, and it's a shame her investigation hasn't moved a millimeter. If you remember the past, the day of their acquaintance happened absolutely by accident. The girl was walking together with an acquaintance of the field, and they accidentally saw a man who was lying right on the ground unconscious. Naturally could not pass by. She endeavored to awaken him to see whether he was at least alive or not. The moment the acquaintance thought there was no more help for this man, Riesel wouldn't even listen to him. She was sure everything would be fine. The main thing was not to leave him and think of something. If they passed, she would not forgive herself for the rest of her life and would blame herself for not being able to save the man. At such moments, the lady reminded him of a calm queen who could never pass by the needy either. He even confessed that he himself had only stayed alive because of her. The woman had not come past him as well as Riesel had done. So as not to stay here too long, they took it with them, laid it on a flat surface, and headed back home. From that moment on, she never left his side for a second, constantly bringing cold water and a towel to bring down his fever and make him feel a little better. It was unknown how long he had been under the sun, so the girl was sure a cold cloth would definitely not be superfluous. She had never cared for anyone like that before, although she really liked to help people. But there were no serious cases like this at the time. She was very tired, barely had time to eat, but it wasn't for nothing. He woke up a couple days later, and all efforts were not in vain. She was very glad to see his beautiful eyes, and eagerly wanted to know what was the matter. She told him that he had no idea how much she had worried about him all those days, and how good it was that he had come to his senses. She introduced herself at once. She was only 16 then, and as it turned out, they were the same age, though you couldn't tell from their looks. Suddenly, he asked without all these formalities, because he thought that he did not deserve even the simplest respect. Rizel did not understand why he said so, because all her life she had maintained the opinion that regardless of the status of a person, everyone should be treated equally, especially there should not be such a thing that someone helped and someone did not. When she asked what his name was, it turned out he didn't have a name. At least that's what he said. The girl didn't doubt that he probably had a name, but the guy probably just didn't want to reveal his real name, and sure enough, he had his reasons for that. Surprisingly, she was the one who came up with a fabulous name for him, Destad, and he agreed very quickly, because it didn't matter what she called him. Destad smiled, but still couldn't believe that someone was treating him normally or even wanting to help at all. He's used to being humiliated, to feeling like a waste of space among people, and he's been reminded of that more than once. The guy, even then, was so handsome that the girl could not take her eyes off. She admired and realized that it was love at first sight. He seemed so beautiful. She had never met a more handsome man. It was astonishing to hear that he was not of an aristocratic family and was a common slave. Suddenly, the guy noticed that she was looking at him too often and slightly spooked that he would soon start charging money for her not leaving him alone, considering how often that happened. By sunset, he could afford to buy himself a castle. Riesel was indignant then and pretended he was just imagining it and asked him not to be so cocky. Though the guy was absolutely right, the girl pretended he was wrong, though at the same time, he didn't mind and was even glad someone liked him so much. As time went on, they couldn't live without each other. They were attracted to each other like a magnet, so much so that it was difficult to even eat alone. That's when she started imagining different scenarios, and all the time, as she was afraid to say a word to him in her life, she had all sorts of things in her mind. Riesel imagined him without clothes, and how he did things to her that aren't even in romance books. It was even a little uncomfortable, after sleepless nights where she'd pictured him in every color, to wake up and come out to them in the morning as if nothing had happened. She had such fantasies that sometimes she was ashamed of herself, and afraid that someday he would find out about it, or accidentally hear his name as he passed her room. Meanwhile, she's uncomfortable even just remembering what went through her head in the past and how much she wanted him every night. The next day has come, and the Emperor has been in a full swing since morning. He has a lot of guests, and everyone needs to be given due attention. Everyone has some complaints, suggestions for cooperation, and more. There are so many people to deal with that you could deal with them all the way into the evening, and it's unlikely he'll have the time or inclination to call Riesel to his room late at night tonight. He looks at the huge room and realizes he's tired, just realizing how long it could take to do this. It's been a long time since he's had anything like this, and today, it's like everyone's conspiring and even showing up at the same time, which is very inconvenient. Unexpected, but even now, when she shouldn't even have thoughts of anything else but work, he manages to imagine the Rizel. Because ever since that day, he's wanted to see her smile and her gentle gaze and how embarrassed she is. His imagination had gotten to the point where she was already flying up in the air to him and saying how crazy about him in that form. Looks good, but the more he thinks about it, the longer it'll take to deal with the guests. They're not thrilled about having to stand in a huge line, and he's not in a hurry to get anywhere yet. It didn't end there. He began to remember the past, how she had given him a new life, a new name, gave him hope and dreams for a new future, and then suddenly turned away and let her die. He's left with a terrible resentment. And since he has those memories, and they match the girl's memories, he could be a real Destadi. I can see why he won't let her see his real face. He's hiding and not as soft as a guy in love usually is. At that time, a very long time ago, he was outraged at how unfair the girl's life was. He longed to help her, but once he was tied up and wanted to settle lives for absolutely nothing. The man who hated him the most was known for being nothing but intimidating and unable to lie. The man yelled very loudly when he didn't see the fear in his eyes, and even dared to say that it was the girl's decision. He was just fulfilling her wish, even though it wasn't true. Unfortunately, the guy was naive enough to believe not only that, but that she had a longtime fiancé she never said anything about. The man did everything to make him hate Rizal, and he succeeded. At that moment, the boy hated her and for the first time faced betrayal. Suddenly, the girl comes in and the man says if she doesn't believe him, she can ask her. Destad bluntly asked if it was true that she was engaged and had kept it from him all summer. Rizal didn't even look in his direction and replied that he could think as he pleased. It was as if she was replaced at that moment. He did not recognize her and did not even know how to express his emotions. They were just not there then. There was a complete emptiness and disappointment inside, which he feels towards her every day until now. Impossible to believe. But that day she said she had long been annoyed by his manner of speech and asked him to treat her mistress with respect and not to ask silly questions. After that, she cut the rope and didn't even watch him fall down, plunging into the water, unable to swim. To this day, the guy looks back on those times with hatred and looks forward to when it's time for his response. He doesn't want her to know he survived, so he's waiting for the moment. And sooner or later, he'll get his revenge. Words cannot express how painful it is to realize that there was no truth in their story, and all those feelings he so sincerely believed in were lies. But that's not all. Inside, the emperor is struggling with two beliefs. One, she betrayed him, and two, who was there to threaten Risa, and she lied that she never loved him. And the most interesting thing is that Destad saw. No one was looking at him. These two walked away without even looking back. He held his air, went down to the deep end a bit, and started to learn how to swim. He didn't plan to die, though he was hurt by the betrayal. He fought to the last because suddenly, Rizal was in a desperate situation and really couldn't help. Eventually managed to get out of the water, all the while the guy was hiding and wearing closed clothing. Followed her, and was much closer than she could have imagined. It was a little disheartening to see her happy after half a day, as he supposedly died, but the thought that she was doing it on purpose, and inwardly very grieving, still remained. No wonder that one day he could be on her side, believing she loved him and just couldn't do otherwise, and the next day was ready to avenge the betrayal, and had no desire to justify or speculate why she did so. It's still going on today. Destad still hasn't decided what he wants to do with her. For on the one hand, it was the greatest love of his life, but in case it turned out that she only seemed good, it was only fair to do the same to her. And he has time to think about all this, while all these people are waiting for him. They are already arguing who can be left for later, and who is very urgent and most important to get to him first. It turned out that there are a lot of unpleasant people here. No one is going to give in to each other. For them, everything is like a competition, and everyone is trying to get as far away as possible. They are all very much like each other, too impatient, and it's not even pleasant to look at. The emperor has seen them from the outside and doesn't want to waste his time on them anymore. He wants one thing, to go back to her, to spend time with pleasure, and then to be tormented by the thought that she can't be nice to him and doesn't deserve to be treated well since the moment she let him fall in the water. He's torn apart by the uncertainty of what to do with her and how he feels about her. But still, there's hope inside that it's not what he thinks it is. That night, he was the happiest he had ever been, and realized that this was the man he needed, the Rizal he had fallen in love with as a young man. It's impossible to imagine how hard it is when you seem to be attracted to a person, but something tells you that you can make a mistake again and regret it for the rest of your life. The girl is alive for one reason only. For now, he is not ready to lose her, though he doesn't know if there will ever come a moment when he will be able to get enough and easily leave her. He's been agonizing and undecided for so many years, so he's unlikely to come to a conclusion anytime soon. The best thing he can do is distract himself and be useful to all these people. Meanwhile, the first man comes up, tells his problems, and thanks in advance if the gentleman decides to help him. The emperor did not think long. He said that the speech was excellent. However, he had to refuse and asked to go home. Also, it is desirable to think about the reason why he did so, and then suddenly says that that's it for today, and the next day when he's ready to take someone on is at least a few weeks away. All because of a man who thought the emperor would help him in his shady business, even though he'd warned him more than once to stop. The man just came in, worded his request differently, and thought no one would find out. By doing this, he only set everyone else up, although the decision was a bit unfair. It's nobody's fault that there are such insolent people. Some people had to stand since the morning, and all for nothing. The guy is not the kind of person who can tolerate for a long time. He just thought of the girl and already ordered the assistant to bring the princess to the greenhouse. They put that mask back on her, and Riesel realized it wasn't just to give her an unforgettable experience. She would be wearing it every time she saw the emperor. The girl has already arrived. He controls her with his voice and tells her which way to go. She is already pleased with this beautiful fragrance that seems to accompany her all this time. Riesel is sure today's meeting will end the same way as the last one. She has no doubt about it, and even admitted to herself that she is looking forward to a repeat of it. She trusted him completely, gave him her hand, though after all these thoughts today, there's not even a clue what he called her for. Meanwhile, they had already returned and come into the drawing room, and the emperor even complimented the dress. What she came in originally was very unsightly and shabby, so from now on she has a new closet. Unexpectedly, but this beautiful moment was ruined by the memories. Even though it seemed like he had already forgotten everything and it should have gotten better, he stops himself and tries not to think about it. The moment the guy heard years ago that the princess was getting married, there was no limit to his anger. And for the betrayal she had committed 5 years ago, no matter how it sounded, there would be nothing in it for her. He is sincerely trying to forgive her and really wants to know the real reason why she did that to him back then. Either way, for now his identity will remain a mystery to her, at least until he decides if he wants revenge or if he still loves her. At this moment, when he takes her hand, in parallel holding back from taking revenge right here and now, the emperor starts to ask how she is feeling and what she has been doing all this time while they have been away. Riesel thanked her concern and told her that unfortunately, nothing much has happened. She is doing very well and remembered to thank him for all he has done for her and continues to do. The guy laughed and said he was just hurting her and reminded her how she had screamed that night, how he pressed her arms, her legs, how she begged him to stop, and it sounds like a hint that it could happen again. He starts to listen to the scent of her hair, gently touches her face, and he's not sure if she's worthy of it or not. The girl looks even better today than she did the other day. It makes him want to rip those clothes off and go straight to the room, unannounced. And then a question came out that made her shudder. He wondered if she had ever been unclothed in the middle of the day somewhere other than her room. Here, she thought it was as if he had read her thoughts and desires that she had imagined this morning and last night before she went to bed. He's not shy about talking to her about these things. He starts untying the dress on her back without permission. Her dress is down below her waist. She can't see anything, and she's afraid someone will see her like that, and he's gone somewhere else. And then returned and began to tell how he had learned that a girl had recently met an Escallion. At such an inopportune moment, the emperor warns her to listen less to that man and preferably not to communicate with him at all. Riesel doesn't quite understand why that man is here and why he's talking about him right now when it's not really the time for it at all. And then he starts touching her with some object that looks like a big bead, but it's covered in some kind of liquid, which is pleasantly cooling and adds a very unusual sensation. He starts kissing her neck, and all this together brings incredible pleasure. The bead is already inside her, and it turns out he's put something on it that he's not telling her yet and promises she'll find out about later. Then they came to the sofa. He sat on it and asked her to kneel down, holding her hands in parallel so that the girl did not fall and better oriented herself in space. Even though this is the time to discuss anything, it's like he insists on it and isn't going to keep quiet. He wants to see her lost, not knowing what to focus on, even though he doesn't really care who she met or what she did in her spare time. And then her body starts to heat up so much that Rysel couldn't help herself and asked him to do anything to her. Just don't stop and don't go anywhere. If the first time it was hard for her to last even half an hour, today it seems there can be no limits whatsoever. She is no longer in control of what she says and asks to be rougher. You can even hit or choke a little, but not too much. Riel doesn't hear herself, she says, and asks for things she was afraid to think about before, and he likes it a lot. Apparently that bead was able to make all the clamps, shyness, and thoughts that keep her from relaxing go away. She'd never felt anything like this before, and she didn't even think it could be any better than anything she'd experienced last time. It is something amazing, indescribable in words. Something that you want to feel forever, or at least every day several times. She moves so smoothly and takes the lead. He's crazy and begs to keep it up. It's impossible to imagine what will happen next time. But for now, they don't think about it. Their minds are completely shut down, especially hers. The Emperor never thought that this time would be the only difference. What could you think? She had been practicing and learning it all her free time. Rysel no longer cares how loud she screams, who can hear it, or if the doors to this room are closed at all. Anyone could walk in here and she wouldn't even notice. Her eyes unable to open with pleasure, and her voice a little hoarse, because she wasn't used to shouting so long and so hard. The redness of her face still hadn't gone anywhere, which meant the Emperor was doing the right thing, even more than he himself did not expect that he could bring her so much emotion that she did not stop for a second, and sincerely asked him not to stop. All the girls he'd been with before, they'd just avoided him and tried to stay out of his sight. I haven't had such freedom for a long time. The others had to be persuaded, but with her it's different. She's special and never says no to anything. Meanwhile, it's over. But her body doesn't realize it. She continues to feel everything, even though nothing is happening anymore. And in the meantime, it was time to discuss something. The Emperor confessed that he enjoyed spending time with her very much, and suddenly asked her to tell him one wish that he would be willing to fulfill for her. The guy is sure that, like any other girl, she probably wants to give birth to an heir who can take his place or become an empress. But she said something he didn't expect her to say. She wasn't interested in status or a fancy future. She wanted to see his face. She'd dreamed of it since the first day she'd been on the estate. At that moment, she couldn't think of anything else. The same voice, the same face she'd glimpsed that night. She just wants to look at him, and not for a split second, but for plenty of it. The girl understands perfectly well that he might get very angry and consider it impudence, but she can't help it. Rysel can't stop thinking about the fact that the Emperor reminds her of that very person. And then he takes the blindfold off of her and asks her to lift her head and finally look him in the eyes. It was so unexpected. What do you do when you didn't even believe it would happen? And he would let her do it. She of course realized that he was very similar, but now she didn't realize if it was a hallucination or not. This was the same man she had lost years ago, which means the fun part starts, and just knowing he's been around all this time makes you dizzy. He didn't even have to explain anything. She already understood everything and couldn't even hold back her tears. She felt light and heavy at the same time. The Emperor grabs her by the head, pulls her closer to him than ever before, and that says it all. He loves her as much as he did 5 years ago, and never allow herself to be hurt in her life, even if she did consciously allow herself to do that to him. Most importantly, she wanted to know how he'd managed to survive, and that was the question he expected to hear from her first. He said he was very lucky, but he's not ready to tell her the details yet. She's bound to find out about it just a little later. They had a good talk, although there were some awkward moments, but they got through them, and the Emperor is even glad that he showed his face today.
Manhwa title in the right corner of the screen. Enjoy watching.
As is usually the case, rumors of the emperor showing her a lot of attention have some people jealous and angry at it. Some racers reported the information not only to their colleagues, but also to one lady who, as soon as she heard about it, immediately stopped sitting in one place and thought of arranging something. She hasn't had this much aggression in a long time. She's indignant because if it wasn't for the maid, she would have sat there without knowing anything. She could have thanked the assistant, but she just asked her to leave so she could be alone. In the meantime, Rizal, as she feels she wants to ask the emperor not to send her any more presents. The mere sight of the other concubines makes her shiver, and it seems that sooner or later a great misfortune will befall her. Few people will watch it from the sidelines, will back down. There is no such thing. They will still fight for her place and will definitely not leave her alone. It has always been, is, and will be like that. Most people here, marrying the emperor is the only chance to get a lucky ticket to the good life. No one stops halfway when they see he has some girls. As long as he doesn't have a wife, everyone has a chance. Rizal is for them for now. Meanwhile, the girl walks past some room and smells a screen odor. Very much like bad energy, and it's clearly non-male. It's like some villain just passed through here, only to get closer, open the door, and the lady sees a man on the floor, which means she's not wrong. She immediately ran up to help, but from the looks of it, it was too late. It had been a long time, and if the maid still hadn't come to her senses, it was unlikely that anyone would be able or have time to do anything about it. Rizal is in no hurry to leave her before her time, because she thinks that if she leaves now, she won't forgive herself for the rest of her life. Realizing that she has no medical skills, she immediately runs out into the hallway, but the door won't open. It's like something is propping her up on the other side of it. Apparently, because of a strong draft, it had slammed shut, and now she would only be able to get out if someone miraculously passed by and heard her plea. Otherwise, you'll have to stay here for a very long time. This room is not frequented by many people, which explains why the terrible incident happened here. The girl screams very loudly. She doesn't stop. She believes she'll get lucky, and meanwhile, that maid sort of came to her senses and starts to rise to her feet. And at that moment, Rizal begins to put all the events together. The unpleasant news for the other envious girls. The room with the curtains drawn tightly to keep out the light, even in the daytime. The door that slammed shut as soon as she entered. All of it saying only one thing. In all likelihood, it's nothing more than a trap she fell into so easily, she didn't even notice. The girl made the mistake of not turning around and screaming so hard that she didn't even hear the maid coming too close to her, though in fact, it was very hard to call her a maid. The man starts to take off the woman's wig. You can clearly see from his hand that it's a guy, and still, the lady just doesn't notice it. Very curious as to who he is, what he's doing it for, and most importantly, who he's trying to get revenge for. Horrified to see a man lying unconscious, she didn't even look closely or distinguish who was really there. And meanwhile, there's a guy in front of her who clearly doesn't wish her well. At this point, he had already taken off his shirt, starts to open the door, which opened in some magical way. Rizal was trying to do it with all her might, and he just touched it, and it worked. This door opens. The girl hears someone behind her, and from the outside, it looks something like this. They are two lovers, a perfect situation after which anyone would easily and gladly tell the emperor. There are witnesses. Rizal is unlikely to believe she was helping the maid. The trap has worked. All those who are in league with this person immediately start to wonder loudly, specifically speaking as if they heard some strange sounds from there, as if everything suggests that the girl has betrayed the emperor. The villainess, no other way to call her, can't hold back a smile, and is eager to see how His Majesty will react to this. Rizal realizes she doesn't have much time, immediately closes the door and starts talking to that guy. Finding a compromise is unlikely, but still, this is her last chance. She has to make the most of it before she can explain everything to the emperor. She says she has no idea from whom he received such a directive and makes it clear that it's not too late to stop. Someone is bound to come here very soon, and no one she really wants to see the emperor in anger. She asked him not to come any closer. She took her hand and noticed again that the door had closed. It was probably so that she wouldn't be able to escape anywhere and tell the emperor the truth before that villainess spoke to him. The guy stops her, asks her not to yell, and says he's not going to hurt her. He even apologized and explained that there are reasons for everything, but he didn't explain anything to her specifically. And also, he starts shaking so hard, like he's standing in the cold and out of place, and she's hers. He starts telling her some obscure information. She didn't even bother to listen to anything, just preparing herself for the fact that a conversation with the emperor is inevitable. He will either believe her or not. Who would have thought that right in the middle of such a beautiful sunny day, something like this could happen? There were more traitors around than she could have imagined, and if by some miracle the emperor could forgive her, it would have to be remembered in the future. You can't trust anyone here, and as she's already learned, sometimes it's better to pass by than to help and make things worse for yourself. If she just walked by then, none of this would have happened. But now the bad guys around here are taking advantage of her kindness, and it's probably not the first and won't be the last. You will need to be ready for anything. These people are capable of anything, especially if it concerns good prospects in your personal life. Until she's His Majesty's official wife, she can be treated as she pleases, which means she'll have to learn to stand up for herself. Better yet, build some credibility so that no one would even dare to look badly in her direction and contemplate what they dared to set up today. Just the thought of having so many enemies around her makes her arms droop. But for now, you have to hang in there and not let anyone see it. You have to be strong, even if you're not. At some point, he pushed it again as the villainess ordered. The door opens again, and of course there are a lot more people in the hallway already. Before, the guy accidentally messed up her hair a little bit, wrinkled her dress to make it look more believable. It's a little weird that he apologized before doing so, as if he didn't look like a real villain, but he did his job, and in a very timely manner at that. Meanwhile, some of the maids did help her up. They pretended to care, though most of them sided with the villainess, and it was very noticeable. Also, the girl pretended not to know the guy, like she didn't ask him to pretend to be anything and has no idea how he ended up here. And at that moment, something happened that Rissel never expected. The villainess framed her assistant and said that since he was involved in betraying the emperor, he deserved to be punished. This is not what they agreed on. The girl can't believe her eyes. These people are more cruel than she thought. It's too much. Naturally, I couldn't help myself and asked what right they had to treat him like that, because no one even found out what happened and how much of what they saw was true. You can see that the guy is not bad, and it seems that he did it only out of desperation. The villain could have manipulated and forced him to do it, no matter how much he wanted to. Of course, she took the opportunity to present it as a girl defending her lover and asked to explain how she dares to behave like that after all that everyone had already seen. In the corridor began to breed rumors, gossip, all like in broad daylight. The imperial palace, alone with another man, all upset, still has him to defend, as if she had nothing to hide and no conscience whatsoever. You can argue about conscience, who really don't have it, but there's no point in talking to these people. Meanwhile, today is the day when the aristocrats gather at the palace, which means that the villain has chosen this day to make sure that as many people as possible see Rissel's shame. She stands aside and can't be happy that everything turned out even better than she expected. She can't believe that there are still such naive people left in this world, but it's only to her hand, and not only for her, but also for some other people, who also increase their chances to become closer to the emperor. In the end, Rissel is standing in the middle of the hall, with that guy next to her, and everyone can't wait for His Majesty to show up and finally ask what's going on here. I wonder who he will believe more. Although the speech from those people has long been prepared, they will use the most provocative words and evidence just to destroy his relationship with her once and for all. And now he's here. He's seen everything from the outside, and the only thing left to hope for is that he trusts Rysel. And despite all this evidence, which is really easy to believe in his shoes, will at least talk to her and not believe any of them from the first word. She's not a stranger to him and deserves to have a say in it. He's not in the mood today. He's obviously not going to stall. It's going to be a short conversation, no intrigue, like he likes. The most interesting thing begins. The nerves of Rysel on the limit, because on his decision depends on how her life will turn out further and whether it will turn out at all. She doesn't even want to look him in the eyes. He'll see too much frustration, anger, and non-acceptance of everything that's going on in them. She doesn't even have the strength to explain anything. If he actually thinks she could do that to him, it means there is no trust between them, and never was. At the very last moment, when she even changed her mind to fight for truth and justice. He says he knows she's trapped, and that these people could never make her look like a traitor, because the Emperor knows her too well to believe such a thing. He looked at her with a very warm look, just like she remembered him from when they were best friends. It turned out that he didn't even want to look into the situation. He just knew right away that she wasn't like that, and that was enough. Who would have thought it worth so many years of friendship, of trust, that even with all the evidence, a flawless plan and a prepared speech, the villain set up only herself. He will deal with her later. Now he is trying to comfort Rysel. He sees how she is hurt and hard it is for her to be shown not to be the person she really is. The girl has always been very kind and never passed by those in trouble. He knows it from himself. There was a moment when she was walking by just the same and noticed him and did not leave him without support. It was the day they met, which showed once and for all what she was like. The only thing he wanted to ask him was how he'd guessed it all. Since the evidence was substantial, she wouldn't even doubt it herself if she were him. And he didn't even listen to anyone. He understood everything right away and explained that if she looked at her hands, she would see a sign of desperation, which he knows very well. He has been in her shoes, been locked up more than once, and knows how those who are unjustifiably accused behave. Rysel seemed to understand what he meant, and she didn't even think it was possible to tell so much from the hands. From now on, he's not talking to her. He's talking to all those who were in cahoots with the envy in chief. And in case anyone didn't realize, they're not going to get away with it that easily. He understands how many people are trying to separate them, to break them up. So he warned them once and for all that it was impossible, no matter how much they wanted to do it. He knows this girl too well. She would never do something like that. And if they had any problems in their relationship, they could fight. Say what they think to each other, but they would never do such a low thing, betraying each other and being in the same house. Everyone is silent. No reaction, took complete silence. No one is no longer confident. As in the beginning, some have already realized that they made a mistake and do not even know what to do now. Since no one had anything to say, Rysel apologized to the Emperor and promised to be more attentive from this day forward, and of course thanked him for his trust. It was priceless. He replies that it's not her fault. It's everyone's fault but hers, especially those who are the quietest and try to hide behind the backs of those closest to him. People thought that was the end of it, that we could go away. They relaxed immediately. There were sinister smiles. But it's not like that. The Emperor sees much more than they think. And lastly, said words that dissolve those smiles very quickly, like sugar in warm water. For now, everyone is free to go, but as soon as he has time, he will give it to everyone, and no one will be left without punishment. No one, since someone dares to pry into his private life, should be prepared for the consequences. Meanwhile, before everyone had dispersed, a man entered the hall. Although no one was expecting him, his appearance was a surprise even for the emperor. He thought he would not come anymore. But the imperial aide was a little late and apologizes for that. He explained that there were matters that were very important indeed. As an apology, he's willing to work out any problem, because I'm sure they haven't talked things over that quickly yet. It turns out he's even managed to gather some information and offers to listen to everything he's prepared for them. Now everyone will find out what really happened, though it won't be a surprise to the humans, but the emperor naturally doesn't mind finding out exactly what he's going to punish everyone present for. His Majesty just sits in his seat, won't be distracted, and would love to see what all these people had the nerve to do. The deputy calls a witness. Everyone turned toward the door, which means there was a person who was not involved in the situation, but at the same time, saw everything. Most interested to see this man Riesel, she didn't think there was one among those who was okay with her, and this is a real surprise. Naturally, the villainess too, in expectation of seeing this man, for it was certain there were few who might not be on her side of the. Along with the knight, some girl enters the hall. She is in a maid's uniform, and most likely was just passing by. And when she saw what was going on, she thought staying would be a good idea. The maid had never been so intimate with the emperor before. She was afraid to even clean his room on a day when he could walk in at any moment. So agreeing to be a witness was very difficult for her. Only she came nearer. What was the surprise of all around that it was not a maid at all, but a child with very similar clothes. Because of the long corridor, it was hard to pay attention to his small stature. But still, even such a witness would be very useful. No one understands what will happen next. The child is very embarrassed and is unlikely to be able to tell all that he told the emperor's aide. He is not used to seeing so many people, and even less to being the center of attention. According to the aide, this young lady of the court is a favorite of Her Majesty Princess Monabella, Duchess of Cantonia. The girl accidentally ruined the dress. It happened at the moment when she wanted to move it to another place. And on the way, there was a candle, which very quickly burned a hole in it. She spoiled not only the dress she held in her hands, but the neighboring ones on which the very candle had fallen. And most interesting of all, the merciful Princess Monabella did not rebuke the assistant, but instead summoned her brother, the man in charge of cleaning the other rooms. She told him that either he would pay a huge sum for the dress, and she would turn a blind eye to the situation, or he would do what she told him to do. So he agreed to this lover's adventure. To make sure no one gave his sister to the foreigners, he would have to do anything, even if he had to frame the emperor himself. It is clear that the emperor will let the brother of this girl go. He did very right, but the princess, who decided to take advantage of the hopelessness of these two people, will regret it very much. She realized that the situation was a total no-go. She couldn't think of anything better to say than that it wasn't true, and things were completely different. The emperor's aide looked at her with a look that made her realize that she had better not say anything unnecessary, otherwise things would only get worse and she would be doubly sorry, especially since the emperor trusted him much more than anyone else. Moreover, he was consulted by a famous professional tailor. He showed him the damaged dress, and the one said it could be easily repaired by adding lace, jewelry, or anything else, so there couldn't be any problem. It was all the fault of the princess's envy. And also, the tailor said the cost of the dress was half what the princess quoted. She wanted to get money from people who already didn't have it and would be doubly responsible for that as well. The guy will personally oversee it. He won't let it happen again, and just in case, warned everyone present about it. The princess doesn't even know what to say, how to act. She's been completely exposed. She wanted to set a trap for Riesel and ended up in a worse trap herself. Now she'll be taught a lesson about what she shouldn't do, and most importantly, that other people's personal lives are none of her business. And now that everything was clear, most likely, the meeting was about to come to an end. His Majesty expected this from anyone, but not from the princess, who all the time seemed to him a noble lady. Now she has forever spoiled the impression of herself. Moreover, what to say about becoming his wife? She can now not even dream of becoming his wife. He would give her special attention, let her know where she had gone wrong, and remind her that daring to make Riesel look bad would forever be the biggest mistake of her life. It turns out that the girl who was most afraid is protected, trusted, and those who framed her will never dare to do it again. If someone had told her that this was how it would end, she would never have believed it. She didn't even have to explain. His Majesty was on her side from the first second and didn't doubt his opinion of her one bit. It was so pleasant. It's hard to even explain in words the sensations she felt at that moment. It's just indescribable. Naturally, the Emperor could not help but thank his assistant. He had done a good job. Even though he was late, he was still very useful. Now everyone knows better who is who. He revealed the lick of traitors. Because if it wasn't for the assistant, the Emperor would have just trusted Riesel, would have protected her, and had no idea who arranged all this. At the end, the assistant asked His Majesty to finally give the verdict, because everyone is just waiting for it. The guy has a lot of work to do in the library, and at least he didn't even have time for breakfast and would not mind to leave here as soon as possible. Right after that, the Emperor gave a word to Riesel in case she had anything to say, and as soon as she heard that, she immediately looked towards that little girl. She stands very humbly aside, cowardly, not knowing what to do, and afraid she has made some mistake. She felt very sorry for her. And of course, to calm her down a little, she couldn't help but mention her brother. She defended him and said that he hadn't done anything to her. Moreover, he even apologized every time he had to say something or touch her. And also, she said that once she asked him what he was doing, he explained that there were reasons why he was forced to do things like this. In my opinion, he was obligated to be let go and act human because he didn't want to do it. The Emperor immediately agreed. He doesn't mind doing as she suggests, especially since there are those most deserving of his attention, the villainous, and all those who have been on her side all this time. His Majesty said that in the name of the monarch of the empire, he would spare this young man, but that he would not be so kind next time, and asked him to bear this in mind. The guy is even afraid to raise his head, but a knight is already approaching him to release him by order of the Emperor and give him his freedom. He didn't doubt that Riesel knew what he was asking for. She was a good judge of character. Though given recent events, there was a little doubt about that. He couldn't ignore her, and he didn't have a strong grudge against that guy anyway. Not that the others did. The guy can't believe that justice has come, because if he was punished for something he wasn't really guilty of, it would be very upsetting. But as it is, everything turned out more or less fine. How nice it felt the moment the ropes were no longer digging into his skin and pressing so hard it was impossible to even breathe. He will never listen to the princess again, and as soon as she starts to force him, he will tell the Emperor about everything at once. Only the ropes were on the floor, and the lad was freed. His little sister came running up to him at once. She was very happy that he was all right, and was even afraid to imagine what might have been if it had not been for the kindness of Riesel and His Majesty the Emperor. The girl came up to them. She almost cried too, because she realizes how wonderful it is when you have people close to you, especially when they are fine. At this point, the Emperor did not want to delay the punishment. He asked everyone to stay, and asked again. Had blackmailed this young man and his sister, as his aide had reported. I wonder what she would say this time and whether she would deceive the Emperor again. As a result of the silence of the villain, and everything became clear, and to help the brother and sister a little, he changed their work. From now on, they will work in the library of the Imperial Palace. It will be safer, easier, and the remuneration will definitely suit them. Moreover, Escallion will personally take them under his guardianship. The princess does not cease to be indignant. She does not understand how one can judge everything from the words of her subordinates, because it supposedly means nothing. And immediately afterwards, when her friends realized they could get hurt for the company, they started making excuses that they didn't know her true intentions and were just there for her when it all happened. His Majesty did not think for a single second. The decision was made very quickly. He called the guards at the same instant and asked that the Duke of Cantonia and his daughter be taken into custody and not given anything, not even water, until he personally gives the order. This includes everyone else in the Duke of Cantonia's family, even those who have nothing to do with it. It was very fair. Everyone got what they deserved, but he asked Riesel to stay behind. He has a few more words, though so much has happened in the last half hour that she doesn't even have the energy to think about anything, much less talk. She's experienced disappointment, acceptance, joy, gratitude, and all in a very short amount of time. Anyway, he's the emperor, and it's not a good idea to ignore his orders. This time he wanted her to come closer, and as soon as possible. He said it in such a pleasant voice that it was clear he wasn't going to say anything bad to her, and he probably wanted to calm her down after such a rough and emotional start to the day. Meanwhile, a few days later, rumors of what had happened recently were already rife. At every event, the aristocrats only talk about it. That the Duke of Cantonia had 4 ribs broken, and also that his children and all his relatives were severely punished. This is a lesson to all those who think that if they do bad things, it will not affect their relatives. Now, after that event with Riesel, before doing something, people will think not only about themselves, but also about others. Everyone is more cautious. Even those who were against this relationship pretend they can't get enough of how great they look together, although in secret sincerely do not understand why the girl could like His Majesty so much. Nobody sees anything special in her, although some people just forget that it is none of their business, and their private life is nobody's business. In general, people are divided into 2 camps. Some admire her, some hate her, and try hard to hide it for their own safety. Moreover, some suggest that if a guy takes care of her, protects her, and doesn't let anyone even say a bad word in her direction, it's not impossible that the girl could be pregnant for a long time already. The heir to the throne, which everyone is waiting for a long time. But still, they are afraid to even think about it. Aristocrats talk about it only with those they trust. Otherwise, His Majesty would punish everyone who meddles in their business. These conversations are at every turn, and as it turns out, Riesel even managed to overhear it all. She was just passing by and can't believe that someone could have such speculation. No one knows what they're really going through, and already they think she might be pregnant. In fact, not only others, but she herself has long wondered what the emperor found in her. She considers herself an ordinary girl and has seen those who are much prettier than her many times. Especially given the fact of what she's done to the emperor in the past, makes it all the less likely that they'll have any kind of relationship. She can't stop saying the same thing. Whether his heart is big and deep enough to understand and care for her, without misunderstandings, doubts, and resentment about what happened and how she acted toward him that day. For the rest of her life, she'll live his love, cherish the time they spent together, no matter what happens in the future. She worries about how long this love will last, because he must have been with other women while they were living their lives apart. Had he not met someone to replace the traitor that anyone else would have avenged long ago and more than once? She is so grateful for his kindness that she wants to fix everything and live with him for the rest of her life. But at the same time, she realizes that she shouldn't be upset if one day his heart stops with someone else either. If the girl could only know what the future holds for them, it would be so much easier. She is very scared and would hate to lose him. And then he comes over, the one she was just thinking about. The guy comes over to ask if everything's okay, because he saw that the girl was a little sad today. The girl had only one thing on her mind, just so she didn't say anything out loud and he wouldn't hear anything. Anyway, she had to say that everything was fine, she was just a little tired, and that was it. And then he says the next thing. He's not sure if she's ever thought about it or not, but every time she tries to reassure him, it's always accompanied by an awkward smile on her face. After that, he kissed her shoulder, told her not to worry about anything, and even hinted that she was in for a surprise tonight. It all depended on how much work he had to do. And lastly, he added that nothing had changed in all those 5 years. No matter how many times he asked if everything was all right, she always smiled just as she did now and thought he didn't notice a thing. But from this day on, this trick will no longer work. Now such a smile he perceives as a warning signal. She tried to change his mind, but failed. Now he will pay much more attention to her and try to fight bad moods as soon as they appear. And also, the whole time he was holding her so tightly to him that she wanted to go back to her room with him and be alone as long as possible. His hands are so warm that the thoughts appear by themselves. She can't do anything about it, and even starts to shiver a little with excitement. It didn't end there. The emperor rode much more attentively than she would have thought possible. Just as her eyes begin to relax and her breathing quickens, he seizes the moment, his hands snaking under her clothes, as if to hint that if she wanted to, a sequel could be arranged in any nearby room. She can't contain herself anymore. He's so gentle she wants to fall down and savor this touch for eternity. And when she's completely out of control, he starts hitting her with questions about how she's feeling and whether she should stop. And then he says that until she tells him the truth about why she was sad, he's going to keep it up, even if she begs him to stop. Riesel can't even talk properly, which is for the best. She wouldn't want to stop him and had already forgotten they were standing in the middle of the hallway. Someone could walk in here at any moment, and if they don't go somewhere right now, the odds are getting better and better. Not a couple minutes later, they had already found a suitable place, closed the door, and were alone. The guy slowly taking off his clothes and warning that it was too late for the truth. Now he's going to punish her for daring to hide everything and not admit why she was actually sad right away. Sounds threatening, but she's starting to like it. This time he even asked to address him as His Majesty and no other, and if she said his name even once, the punishment would last. Riesel replied that she understood. He immediately put her down on the table and took the initiative. As usual, though. At some point, he gave her one last chance to tell the truth. Otherwise, he would be very rude to her. The girl in no way wants to admit it. He has to use his hand, from which she is already at the peak, and two have the strength to breathe. She asks him to slow down. She wants to rest, and he speeds up on purpose and does everything he can to finally find out the truth, because he can't do it any other way with her. If at first it had been very pleasant, now, too much so, she could barely hold back, though she realized it was useless to resist. She can't tell him the truth, so she'll have to think of something else, because if he finds out how much she cares about him, it'll only make things worse. At the moment when it became unbearable, a moment and she felt pleasure again, and much more vividly than before. He can only go on as long as he needs to, but she can't last that long. She'll have to say something anyway because she can't stop him any other way. The guy proved to be so persistent that even though he was already a little tired himself, he continued to speed up and warned her that it was only a little of what might lie ahead of her. Riesel can no longer not only talk or speak on serious topics, she can't even look around. Everything is blurry, as if in a fog. She can't think, she's losing all her strength. He sees it, but he still stands his ground and demands the truth. Suddenly, he didn't feel like hurting her, doing something she didn't enjoy, and that's the only reason he stopped. It turns out they've been in a holy place the whole time they've been here to pray, and there's probably never been anything like this here before. Some time passed, they both rested, but it was not enough. The emperor missed them so much that he proposed to repeat the guy himself doubts whether this time he'll be able to last as long as he can. The main thing is that no one minds, and no one will disturb them for sure. If it was still possible to keep quiet the first time, this time I had to hold back as best I could. There was a strong echo that could be heard from the other end of the mansion. None of them have ever had anything like this in their lives, not even close. It's a real record and probably won't be repeated for a very long time. They don't realize it yet, but they've been in the temple for hours, and they must have been missing for a long time. It's time to rest, and now the girl hopes for one thing only, just so he won't be short, and that's the end of it. She wouldn't survive another hour like that. Moreover, if she got to her feet right now, she'd pass out. Of that she was more than sure. She's obviously not as sad as she was at the beginning. She's got more energy, although maybe the view is very deceiving. Now she wants nothing more than to lie around, and she's got a big appetite. She'd love to eat something sweet, and have a cup of hot tea and then go to sleep for at least a couple of hours. She's not used to this kind of strain, and it's really better to rest for a while. After that, they had a very serious conversation. The guy warned that if from that day on there was anything or anyone who dared to spoil her mood, she should always report it, and he in turn would deal with it and try to eliminate such things as much as possible. His girlfriend should be glowing with happiness, and if he sees her upset, it's irreversible. From a man who is considered a heartless emperor who destroyed his own kin and kinfolk and then seized the throne, sounds more than convincing. His words don't seem the same anymore. He'd do anything for her, even if it meant getting rid of someone else. The envy of all. It's like she's become his raison d'etre. He thinks of her more than himself, and it's very obvious. He worries about every little thing, even if it's about a breakfast that had an ingredient she doesn't really like. At first, the girl was very happy about it, thanking him, but every time, things get a little weird. How can you get so worked up? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. She understands that he wants to please her. He's trying, but it's only appropriate when there's something serious going on, and controlling food, that's unnecessary. If the girl wants to, she has no problem discussing it with the chef, and he doesn't have to even think about it. Destad acts like he's more afraid of losing her than anything else in his life, and if he only knew it was mutual, things would be a lot easier. And then it started. Everything was so great, but he went from trusting her to the one he had before, which happens about once a month. He remembered what she had done to him. There were thoughts of whether this man was really worth the tremendous effort and all that he was doing for her. He already saw her as his wife, planning a future. But then something went wrong. In the wrong direction. Riesel felt it and tensed up a lot. It was the first time she'd seen his mood change so drastically. It had happened before without her presence, but now it made her feel uneasy somehow. It's the first time she's seen him like this, and it seems like the perfect time to tell him how she really feels about him. Had been there all this time or not, he could only guess. And now, before it was too late, she had a chance to set things right. All this time the Emperor hated her as much as he loved her. He had been abandoned by Riesel and had to rise from the bottom. Any other man in his place would never, not for a single day, have treated her the way I did him. When he remembered that she had turned her back on him, anger boiled deep within him, and he used it as fuel to climb the throne. Destad thought he had forgotten all about it. But as soon as he heard the news of the wedding of the princess of the kingdom of Ainen, he went there, and here was Riesel before him. The more time they spent together, the more he realized something was wrong. She was the same as she was now, and if the story she was telling him was true, then she had no choice but to comply to save her life, and it's a very good thing he realizes that. This love-hate relationship is so messed up that it's not clear what's going to happen between them, or if it's going to happen at all. It can either develop or collapse at any moment. When he goes back to his plan to destroy her and make the girl know all the misery of losing the ruined future she dreamed of, there's a terrible feeling that he's not doing what his heart tells him to do. Judging from these thoughts while she's sleeping, I'd say he's still undecided, which is probably a good thing. While he's thinking about what she deserves, she's more or less safe, and there's time to try to save the relationship. In the meantime, the next day had arrived. Rizal had already finished her history lesson, so tomorrow she would go looking for a reference book on architecture. She hadn't noticed how quickly the time had passed. It was already November, and it was amazing. It was as if she had just recently started, and already most of the time had passed, and it remained to be accepted. Even the emperor himself hadn't expected her to learn everything so quickly. She said that her maternal grandfather was artistic and supportive of many artists, so I think her mom also passed on his drawing skills, which means she may also have this talent lurking, and before it's too late, it needs to be addressed. Such an interest in learning and mastering something new. It's great, but His Majesty is worried about something, which is that all the teachers are young guys. For example, the history teacher is popular with the aristocratic ladies for his wonderful laugh. That's probably why Ascal keeps telling the gentleman to at least squeeze a smile out of himself once in a while. The next one, the diplomacy teacher, he's so good at talking that any woman, after talking to him for a short time, falls in love with him up to her ears and doesn't even notice it happening. Also, no different geometry teacher. He is called a first-class groom. He has everything: looks, intelligence, good manners, pleasant character, status, and not only. The girl explained that he could not worry about it. She was not interested in them and needed them only for business. She had no other thoughts and would not have any other thoughts. In the meantime, the girl had decided to take a little rest. Herbal tea was brought to her. The doctor had prepared it specially so that she could warm herself, and all on the emperor's orders. One of the maids can't stop marveling at how caring he is, and is genuinely happy for Rizal that she's so lucky to be with him. In the meantime, she says she plans to go horseback riding this afternoon with one other person, so she asked me to prepare anything she might need there. The assistant said she would gladly do anything in her power to make the mistress the most beautiful and happy woman in the empire. There was little a maid could do to help, but still, it was very nice to hear that. She explained that it was just a horseback ride and asked to take it much easier. But the assistant didn't even hear that. And in general, if she likes her job so much and has no problem doing more than what is required of her, that's very good. And meanwhile, it started out like this. Last night during a walk, one of Rizal's acquaintances suggested that if the weather was nice the next day, why don't they spend some time together and go horseback riding, especially since they would have visitors from other states next week, so they wouldn't be able to go out for a while, and so they should take advantage of the opportunity now. The girl immediately said it was a great idea, except that what if the people who bullied her and who might ruin her day showed up? When they found out they weren't on the guest list, her friend calmed her down and even gave her a hug, which was really nice. Rizal is very glad that she has such people who can be trusted and from whom nothing bad can be expected to happen. They communicate so well that it's hard to call it friendship. It's more than that. They're like sisters who love each other very much. Meanwhile, she has time before her meeting with Daria, so can quickly go to the library and choose which book to read this evening. Suddenly, some red apple rolled toward her, and looking a little farther away, she sees a maid who has accidentally dropped a basket of fruit. She apologized for that and promised that she would make sure to rewash everything in clean water, and no one would have to eat dirty food. Mistress saw that the maid was in a great hurry. She was late for something, or perhaps she was working here for her first day. She had never seen it before, only heard that the palace had changed a bit in preparation for the reception of ambassadors, and that was all she knew. At one point, just as she's handing over that apple, the maid gives her a strange note and leaves very quickly somewhere, as if she doesn't want anyone to see it. The girl doesn't understand what it is. She was afraid to open it, but at the same time, she can't not do it either. Suddenly there's something important in there. It's also a little weird that some of the apples were left on the floor anyway. Now I've got better things to do. She slowly opens this note, trying not to tear anything, And as it turns out, it's not a little message at all, but rather a huge request to show up at a certain place. Come to the central drawing room on the 3rd floor of the Rural Palace, in the room reserved for the envoys of the Kingdom of Einan. Make sure that no one sees you. I will start counting from the moment the bell rings at noon. I have your nanny with me. Hurry up, Rizzle. For every 10 seconds you are late, and I will hurt your nanny. And if you warn the Emperor or call for help, you will regret it very much, and not only you. And what's more surprising is that at the end, it says someone's name, a jurist, which she certainly didn't expect. The girl doesn't understand. Weren't the envoys supposed to arrive next week? Moreover, the Emperor showed her the guest list, and it didn't have this mysterious jurist on it. She didn't even have time to realize it, to think about it, before the very sound the note had warned her about sounded here. Sounded the bell, and in that second, she instantly went where she had been asked to come to. Those seconds seem like an eternity. She's already approaching the right room, where very familiar people are waiting for her. Behind the translucent screen that Maid is holding the nurse, they are scarcely visible, but the first people whom Rysel sees will be the same lawyer who wrote the note. The girl flies into the room. She's not interested in anything but what they did to the nanny. No one rushes to explain anything. It's like they don't notice her and purposely make her more and more nervous. And when she started screaming and resenting what was going on, the man deigned to say his first words. Just look at her. It looks like the rumors about her dating the Emperor are true after all. Apparently, someone was not satisfied with what happened to the princess. These people are asking to be the next to be punished by the Emperor. A man turns to that girl and offers her to look at his sister. Supposedly, the jewelry that is hung all over her body is worth so much that you could buy a small estate for it. Another case of envy. The sister even recognized that the girl had become much prettier and even noticed the velvet skin that one can only dream about. Rysel is so disgusted to hear those voices, but she's only staying here to save the nanny and get out of here with her. The man stops her, but the girl is not afraid and reminds him that they are not in the Kingdom of Einan, and she would advise him not to even touch her. She said that if the Emperor saw a single mark on her body, someone would regret it very much and soon. A second passed, and the sound she dreaded to hear the most, someone dared to harm Nanny. And then, the sister said the following: they came to visit her after a long time, and she's worried about a stranger. And it's very uncomfortable for them. Rysel didn't even bother to answer anything. She tries to resist, but unfortunately nothing works out. Not only did the man squeeze her hand very hard, but he let her push him and throw him right onto her sister's couch. They start saying something about siblings, that they should always rely on each other. But when the girl asked what it all meant and why she had to listen to them, the man asked if she knew why they had arrived a little earlier than they were expected to. Rumor has it that the Emperor takes baths on Fridays with the Princess of the Kingdom of Einan, meaning with Rysel today is Friday. And their whole plan is to send the girl's sister instead of her, in the hope that he will like her much better, and His Majesty will forget about Rysel once and for all. The man also said a very unpleasant phrase. What's wrong with helping his sister and making her empress? Then they laughed and didn't hide that their main goal was to take the throne, so they deliberately didn't put themselves on the guest list. The girl pretended that she was reconciled, would not resist any longer, said that they must be very tired from the road, offered to rest, and herself resolved to go to the Balland and tell him all about it, to ask for help, when suddenly, just as she began to open the door of the... As it turned out, the man wouldn't let her go yet. He caught up with her and ordered her to stay here until he personally allowed her to leave. He grabbed her hair very hard, realizing perfectly well that she was trying to trick them, to call someone. So, they wouldn't let her go anywhere, especially not alone. And at that moment, the sister pulls out some small jar and orders her to drink the contents. Rysel didn't even have time to push her away before they made her drink, and in that second, her body starts to feel like it's on fire. It's indescribable, the worst feeling she's ever had in her life. It's hard to breathe. It hurts her head and it seems impossible to survive it. It seemed to be destroying her from the inside like the truest poison. The girl took a breath and only now was able to ask what they had given her. She certainly thought it might be poison, but she had no idea that her relatives hated her enough to actually give her a poison drink. Sister had specially prepared a slow and agonizing doom for her, and would also, with pleasure, watch it from the beginning to the end of the Jurek smiles as if he's already defeated her. But as you know, you shouldn't be happy before the time, because who knows how things may turn out at the most unexpected moment. They have more than one can of poison with them, enough to last a long time, and Rizal, the more she resists, the more poison she'll have to drink. Once was enough to make it painful to talk. Her eyesight deteriorated and she no longer has the strength to even get to her feet. She didn't realize how she'd done it. As soon as the opportunity arose, she went straight for help. But there's no other choice. She won't let these people take her place, especially after all they've done. Lucky her relatives don't know that the Emperor and Estad of Neuheltz are the same person. Otherwise, they wouldn't have tried to seduce the man for the sake of ascending the throne they tried to destroy before. She needs to get the antidote and make sure her nanny is safe, but she can't do it all by herself. She needs help. But will there be consequences for those who have nothing to do with the situation? Will Melan, for example, be punished for not serving her well enough? You should see a doctor first. See if he can neutralize the poison she's already ingested. The girl knocked on the room and decided that she would try to describe the poison from the words that the lawyer had told her. We need to find an antidote soon. After all, there is no telling how dangerous everything is. Meanwhile, the Emperor is already talking to some man. He wants to make sure of the effectiveness of a remedy that should prevent the princess from getting pregnant. The doctor warned that it would be very dangerous to take it for long periods of time. You need to keep this in mind and not take large portions of it. At this moment, the girl realizes that the doctor is not alone in the office. She heard a familiar voice, even listened to the conversation, and could not believe her eyes. They discuss some kind of pregnancy. The latter asks him to be patient. It all boils down to the fact that His Majesty is worried in case Riesel might have gotten pregnant, and he doesn't seem to like it very much. And when he said the line about keeping the baby out, it made her want to fall through the ground. She had not expected such words from him. It was very painful, hurtful. It seemed that they were doing well and he should want an heir, like any other emperor in his place. And at such an age when it was time to think about it. It's understandable that no girl would be happy about those words. She doesn't even know what would be better, not hearing it, or still knowing his opinion like she does now. This is the first time she's disappointed in him, and has no idea what reason he has for not wanting to have children with her. She cried very hard, ran so they wouldn't hear it, and almost tripped from crying tears that made it impossible to see anything. So while she thought they were doing great, the guy cheated on her and never really forgave her. She can't see any other reason why he doesn't want a child. It's more than obvious, and now she doesn't know what to do. All those beautiful memories, his words, the time we spent together, it all meant nothing and was just a pretty picture that would be to the delight of all the jealous women. Just the thought of him actually hating her and pretending to love her makes me want to run away and never see him again. Was he really not who he seemed to be all this time? Riesel didn't know the real him and had no idea how he really felt about her. Meanwhile, the Emperor has no idea. Rizal is in tears, and he's just learning that her relatives have infiltrated the palace and is already guessing what they might have done in the meantime. He wonders how they dared to do it under false pretenses, deceiving all his guards, because it's never happened before. Obviously, there has to be some good reason for this, and he has no idea how they're going to explain it all. He decided to reschedule the meeting, and for some reason ordered to escort Riesel to the greenhouse. Bath canceled today. He would see her elsewhere, as if he sensed that that was where he was going to get a not-so-nice surprise from her relatives. He's very excited, at the same time, outraged at how these people are even capable of this. and what they allow themselves to do. A little strange, but instead of taking a shower in a special room, he chose to do it somewhere else. But not for him, but for her. It's the first time they've had this happen. The girl pretends nothing is happening, just keeps quiet, even though she can't even enjoy this massage. If it weren't for today's news, everything would be fine and she wouldn't even know about it. But as it is, maybe it's for the best. And also, he's been suspiciously repeatedly asking if she was that tea, as if that means he's putting something in it. And also, it's really weird that he usually takes a lot of interest in her condition. And now all of a sudden, he doesn't even pay attention to the fact that she's depressed and moody. Now the girl's starting to realize what all these mandatory tea parties, stakeouts, and more are all about. He controls her a lot more than she thought. But anyway, sooner or later we'll have to talk about everything. She's not going to put up with it much longer, and there's no point in it. Meanwhile, rumors spread throughout the palace about the imminent arrival of envoys from the kingdom of Anan, and also about the fact that they were accompanied by royalty in the person of Jurek and his daughter. The guy was blinded by the pain and anger of having his throne stolen from him by his blood relatives, of nearly losing his life and being abandoned by his beloved, so he never saw the whole truth of the matter. An investigation in the kingdom of Anan revealed that 5 years earlier, Rizel had been taken to the palace in Briggeltz, where she was treated very cruelly, and the principal bride was her sister, basically, as I usually am. That day in the prayer hall, Rizel had told him everything, and the reason she had turned her back on him some time ago was to save his life. That was the kind of Rizel he had been with then and for the past few months. Now he can be dishonest, no longer wants revenge, has finally made up his mind. Only this is very much at odds with what he said to the doctor just half an hour ago. And then, very abruptly, he starts doing the same thing as the last time she didn't tell him everything. Did the guy notice again that she was holding something back and decided to use the same technique? It didn't work last time, but this time they're in a crowded place and maybe she'll give up real quick. It's just her guess. He's too unpredictable, and he hasn't explained anything, like he's doing it on purpose so he can talk about it afterwards. He kisses her so tenderly, as if his feelings are completely sincere. The girl starts to get confused about what she heard and how she sees him now in front of her. It's like two different people. On the one hand, she wants to forget everything she's heard, but on the other, she can't go on like this for much longer. It's very interesting what he really thinks, how he imagines everything, whether they will have any future at all. Because if a person does not want a child from the one he meets, it's somehow wrong. Such a relationship will not last long. I would like to believe that with his words, he is deceiving everyone around him, doing everything possible to please the envious and those who are against this relationship. But he himself thinks otherwise. Sounds good, but she's tired of believing her hunches. Wants to hear it from him in person so she won't be disappointed even more later on. It was strange that as soon as he touched her, she would immediately lose control of herself and allow him such a thing after what she had heard. Unlikely to be kept in this uncertain state for a few more days. One might even suppose she would speak to him about it before the end of today. It's very serious. She needs to know what to expect next, how serious he is about her, and if what he says really matches what he really thinks. Maybe she loved him so much that she was willing to put up with what she heard, at least for the short term. He usually likes to talk a lot at times like this, but today the emperor is too silent and it's a bit alarming. It would be a shame if in this way he just uses her and immediately afterwards confesses and will not deny that she heard and understood everything absolutely correctly. Obviously no one is thinking about it yet. Rysel doesn't care about that right now. She even forgot that they are outside. Though she used to control all these moments and was afraid to be seen, she's a lot more patient this time. She's not yelling and she's holding it together. But you can't tell that from him. Maybe it's stress or something, but today is obviously going to be over a lot faster than usual. Riesel almost fell asleep again. She's trying to catch her breath. All tired, can't even look in his direction. The girl starts to come to her senses. The realization comes to her that she just let him, gave in to her emotions, and wants to hope it's not a mistake. This time it was out in the open sun. The guy worried she might have a fever and suggested she go back to the mansion immediately. Riesel had tricked him again. She said she was fine, just a little sleep-deprived last night, and hadn't been feeling her best all day. Since she said it was okay, he took advantage of the situation and decided to continue. The girl doesn't realize it yet, because he didn't even warn her and decided it on his own. His look is so ambiguous, I'd love to know what's really behind it. And then he says something she's heard him say before. The guy says he's gonna be patient. He loses control of himself and can't do anything about it. He even had to take her in his arms because he realizes she's only half conscious. At the very last moment, when he got what he wanted, looked at her with a very warm look, and unlike how rude he had been to her just now, decided to hug her as if nothing had ever happened. The timing was so coincidental that he had just had time to rest, to finish her off, and then the assistants came over to tell him that everything was ready. The emperor himself wondered how he hadn't thought of it earlier, for the aid could have passed at any moment, much earlier, and it would have been very embarrassing. Meanwhile, the Lord ordered to go to the palace of the Ruel and tell them that the emperor was summoning Sister Riesel to himself. One can imagine how happy those two will be about it and wonder what will come of it. His Majesty is clearly up to something and knows more than everyone thinks. In the meantime, the girl had already regained consciousness. She woke up, and after all that had accumulated in her soul, she just couldn't help herself and cried very hard. She can't get used to this same world where everything changes too fast. She doesn't have time to get used to it and realize how unfair everything is. She's already packing up her things, and she didn't even hear someone come up to her and be right behind her. Riesel calms down, suspects nothing, sits calmly in her seat, and was about to leave when suddenly, quite casually turned around and saw a man that made her freeze in one place. She expected to see the emperor, but it wasn't him. It was the man she expected to be here in the very last place. She couldn't even say a word, and again almost fainted at the mere sight of him.